How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the James Loud Podcast. And today my special guest is Craig Coffey. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing real good, James.
So Craig and I go back at least 10 years from High Times events.
I'm saying it's getting closer to 20 years, honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a while. I mean, time just flies. But you've worked for High Times. I feel like you are the perfect person for the podcast because you are a connoisseur of cannabis.
That's all I've ever cared about my whole life. I keep the main thing as the main thing.
Totally. No, that's amazing. And you love weed. You know a lot about weed. You know a lot about flavor profiles and getting high.
Yeah. Well, when you asked me to come on the podcast, I asked you what we were going to talk about, and I was afraid you were going to say like work or industry or something, but you said weed, and you had me instantly.
Absolutely.
So, if that's what we're going to talk about, you got the right guy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about weed. And that's what I like. And genetics and how genetics have changed. I think that's a great topic for today, at least to start off with, is how the genetics have changed over the last, since you started smoking. But before we talk about that, let's dive into your history.
Sure. Let's start at the beginning. The very first time I smoked a joint was probably in 1991, and within a month of that, I would say I was a regular daily smoker, every day, wake and bake. It actually turned my life around. I was kind of a bad high school student, and then the wake and bake got me really interested in my first period chemistry class. And out of nowhere, because of weed, I became a really good student. I graduated with a great GPA and got a good job.
That's awesome.
I credit weed entirely for graduating high school.
Nice. And so you were probably around 14, 13?
First time, yeah. About 14.
Yeah, me too. So yeah. I was born in 77.
76.
76. Yeah. So yeah, same year. That was a good year for weed. Chem dog. That was a good year for chem dog. That was a good year for a lot of things. 91 was a good year.
To this day, I think that it's the pinnacle of weed was Chem 91. I don't think it's gone further than that, personally.
No, and it's so influential to so many things, just like the Grateful Dead. I mean, and Chem dog is a part of the Grateful Dead, the person and the genetics.
Right.
I think, we talk about the Grateful Dead a lot on my show, but I think there's a lot of ties to the cannabis industry for sure.
Hey, even if you're not a deadhead and you like weed, you should respect and love the Grateful Dead. They're integral part of what we do right now. Like if that scene didn't exist, I don't think we'd be even close to where we are today as far as strains and variety and potency and
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Well, yeah. And I mean, I think Dennis Perone said it best that it's medical whether you believe it is or not.
Every single time you smoke a joint, it's a medical.
There's medical benefits for sure. And I think now that we're older, you look at, we've been smoking since we were kids, and I think it's only had positive influence on my life.
I can't think of a negative one.
Me either.
Not my health. I wish I spent a little less money in my lifetime on weed. Maybe I'll say that. There's one. I'll give it that.
But the munchies. For me, it's the munchies. It's giving me the munchies when, I don't always need
I'm
to
a skinny
eat so
guy
much.
though, man. I need that.
Totally.
Yeah, it keeps me alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you've been in California for a while now, but you moved out from New York. We first met at High Times events, but hung out in New York at the office, smoked weed in New York when it was totally illegal.
Yep.
Now you can smoke it on the streets. It's pretty amazing.
New York is wild right now. I haven't lived there since 2015. And I went back recently for the first time since legalization and just blazed a joint right out in the public in all the places that I'd ever been arrested or harassed when I was a kid. I just went on weed tour all around Manhattan.
That's amazing.
It was
Smoking
great.
in every spot.
Everywhere, yeah. Times Square, Coney Island, yeah.
Yeah. So genetics-wise, what were you smoking out there?
California herb I brought with me. Yeah, I mean, I went into a few shops and honestly, there's got to be great weed in New York. There always is great weed in New York, but there's so many storefronts right now that I feel like it's kind of hit and miss. It's pretty hard to find great weed just off the street, Yeah. There's a lot of mediocre weed in New York right now. A lot of mediocre weed.
Just everywhere. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that looks good too, where it's like, oh, that's good. Then you go to smoke it, and
the Pretendica.
Pretendica. We used to call it Pretendica back in the day. So how's weed changed over the past? Since you started smoking, what were the evolutions that you see and where it is today?
Well, when I first got into weed in Florida, you read about strains and High Times, and if you were lucky, maybe your boy had something he said was some strain that he named or whatever. But in Florida, at least at the time, there was two types of weed. There was Crippy, which was basically didn't have seeds, and then there was everything else,
Right.
So anything that was like a proper strain grown outright without seeds in the 90s in Florida was Crippy. That was it.
Wow.
I'd say in my life until about the year 2000, I only knew Crippy. That was it. I didn't know exactly what strain I was smoking, this or that.
Yeah.
The next step in the evolution for me was when I got into the high time scene and started working cannabis cups is meeting guys like you and the people who are actually doing it, like doing breeds and seeing 100 different strains at a cup, and
right.
the variety is
so much variety. And then over in Europe, it was like this big melting pot of people that had all kinds of different genetics that they were bringing in every year.
Yeah.
You know, same thing, Spannabis, and Spannabis is still very much like that. You know, where you have all these people coming in from all over, and everybody. Some people, they wouldn't even talk to each other except for the fact that they're passionate about weed.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of weed too. It's like food. It's just another one of those things that really brings us together as people.
To me, one of the interesting things going on in weed now that all these laws are starting to peel back is we used to have little islands of people developing great strains, and we were completely disconnected from each other because of the law or whatever.
Yeah.
Occasionally you go to a festival and meet somebody else like you or whatever. But now it's like you can develop a strain in LA that within a year is a nationwide strain sold in every worldwide strain. Yeah, it's crazy what we can do.
It's
now.
all global now. It's so wild. Yeah.
And I think there's good and bad to that. Like it's kind of made the gene pool a little homogenous, in my opinion, more homogenous than I would like to see it. Not completely homogenous than it used to be. Like
I agree, and I think we fall into these traps because that's how I describe it, as a trap because of hype, because of popularity. We get excited about something. They did it in Europe with haze. I always talk about how, you know, in the 90s, like they homogenized the genetics over there with haze.
Right.
People got excited about haze and the diversity went away. And then gelato came along, you know, I mean, cookies, sherbet, gelato, you know, lemon cherry gelato. Then we have runts and all these things. And it's like, they're very much similar, and people, you know, and then that's all people demand. And then the other stuff is like, no, I don't want any Jack Herrera, or I don't want any sativas.
Yeah.
You know, but that's changing now too. Look at the scene over in New York. So I feel like because there's so many people, we also have these groups of people that are like, no, I want some sativas. I want shit that doesn't have a ceiling where I can keep smoking and keep getting more high.
Right. Scarcity breeds popularity. Like as soon, like if you have a flood, like people are tired of runts right now, take runts away for 3 or 4 years, and that's going to be the only thing anybody wants, you know?
Totally. Yeah. GDP. Nobody wants to grow GDP though. Right. So yeah.
Why doesn't anybody want to grow GDP?
Well, in my opinion, the reason people don't want, I love GDP, but nobody wants to grow it because it takes about 31 days to veg it properly to get big enough buds so that when you harvest, you got chunky buds instead of small buds.
Sure.
So it doesn't get big. It's not a big plant. It's a small, short plant.
Yeah. I knew a lot of sour diesel growers in New York that unless they can get $500 an ounce, it wasn't worth growing. And they could get that price at that time, you know, like
right.
For the same reason. It's just not a chunker, you know.
I still love sour diesel.
Yeah, everybody does. Who doesn't?
You don't see, it's so funny though, but I think a lot of people don't even know what sour diesel is. So
there's some confusion in that strain that started with the European diesel, which is not sour diesel at all. It's a different thing altogether. Like
like Soma's New York City diesel.
Not the same at all.
It's great, and it's grapefruit, and it's loud, but it's not gas.
No.
It's not gas by any means. It's you know, I was actually just talking to Soma yesterday about that because we're working on some tissue culture stuff with the New York City diesel. It's very different than diesel, ChemDog, any of these, you know, and then we're talking about burnt rubber, the smell of burnt rubber as opposed to fresh grapefruit.
You further complicate that strain with the popularity of the name. It became like rappers are putting it in their lyrics and stuff like that. So anybody who was trying to hustle some weed wanted to call whatever they had sour diesel in New York, at least. So
yeah,
we went through a summer where everything in New York that didn't have seeds was called sour diesel.
Crazy. You know? Blue Dream. No one wants Blue Dream. We're calling it sour diesel. Like
somebody told me once, if you love Blue Dream, that you don't know anything about weed. But if you hate Blue Dream, then you really don't know anything about weed.
That is 100% the truth. I couldn't agree more. You know, and I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm also, I appreciate the fact that it probably has the single best out of all the stuff out there as far as structure, as far as vigor, consistency.
Grows
you grow nice, huge monster buds. And if you do it right there loud, it's just maybe not the personal preference for a lot of people. It's not what people want to smoke every day, but good Blue Dream is still good Blue Dream.
Yeah, I like it because it reminds me of in New York, the only access to reliable clones that I had in the early 2000s was a guy that did Strawberry Cough.
Yeah.
And the actual Kyle Cushman Strawberry Cough is very similar to Blue Dream, I think, in flavor profile, you know, Maybe not in THC potency or whatever, but
Totally.
when I smoke Blue Dream and it's good Blue Dream, it takes me back to smoking Kyle Cushman Strawberry Coffee in my head, you know?
That's awesome. And that's the beauty of it also, is all these flavor profiles are nostalgic. I'm seeing stuff coming out now that people are saying is original. I'm like, well, I was smoking that same flavor profile. 25 years ago, we had some similar stuff, like the juicy fruit, like from back in the day, and that wasn't even 25 years ago. Maybe that was a little less, but around that time, we're seeing stuff that's very juicy fruit, like juicy fruit bubble gum. You know what I mean? Like where it tastes like you're chewing on the gum. Yeah. Well, that's not an original profile. And
the Schlemens. Have you ever smoked that one?
The Schlemens. I haven't even heard the Schlemens.
I love that strain, man. Very juicy fruit, though. When you say it, that's what comes in my head right away.
Totally. Yeah, and I love those unique flavor profiles, but they remind you of something very distinct. Like Bubba Kush has this soapiness to it, right? And every time I smell that soapiness, I think of Bubba Kush, but I also think of Irish Springs.
Yeah. So, I get that. I do kind of get that. Yeah.
And I love that. I love that about it. And the really good, Bubba, I think some of the mass producers and large scale cultivators kind of fucked the Bubba market up. But real good Bubba Kush is real good Bubba Kush. It's amazing, amazing flavor profile. And it burns to the roach. Amazing. You refire it gets you really high. I wouldn't say it gets you super high, but the flavor's so good and it gets you lit.
Yeah.
So and then back in the day we had like the Master Kush, the Bubba Kush.
I think we got to get back into a trend of more flavor profiling. That's another thing that like I'm kind of disappointed with the legal cannabis industry is everybody's just racing towards potency now. And above 24, 25%, who even can tell the difference? Honestly, it's like.
I mean, I have some stuff that's 14%. My sour diesel, for example, I grew sour back in the day and we had our sour crosses that were testing like 14 to 16%. And those will smoke any of the 30% stuff that most people have today.
Terpenes are just dragging the THC across the blood-brain barrier, man.
It'll get you some serious couch lock. So it's really interesting. The recent debate on the word psychoactive versus psychotropic, and technically CBD is psychoactive because it passes the blood-brain barrier.
Is that the definition, the difference between the two words? Okay.
Yeah, so psychotropic is the one that gives you the effect, right? Like the high. Is psychotropic, and I've always used psychoactive, and just recently I was corrected. And I think that's an interesting thing.
Nerd. I love knowing little details like that.
It's all about those little details in life, and I also pronounce stuff incorrect a lot of times until somebody corrects me. So I was saying chat GTP instead of GPT for a little bit.
Boomer.
Yeah, seriously, what's wrong with you? So let's talk about High Times for a little bit.
Sure.
How did that start?
Wow. So I was working for I came up through college with a network engineering focus, in the mid 90s. So like pre-Google, like the internet was still an infant, but I knew HTML. Yeah. I knew Excel and things like that. So I was making a lot of really good money doing temp jobs in Manhattan, in New York. And I was also like, I would take a temp job, find the 2 or 3 people in this office that smoke weed like I do in the week that I was there. And now I have a new client. So like it all dovetailed in my life really well at the time.
Right.
One of these temp jobs finally turned into a job with a company that was building Ford Motor Company's internal website. And I was managing a pool of programmers. And then 9/11 happened, and we were in Lower Manhattan, our office building. So we closed. The company never reopened. We all kind of scattered, but we remained friends. And one of the guys that I used to manage got the job at High Times. This guy, Jeff Weston. I don't know if you're out there, Jeff. I love you, bro. I miss you. When he got the job, everybody at the company we work for looked at me. Nobody congratulated him. They all looked at me to figure out how that wasn't my job because I was the God's only stoner in that place. I was selling everybody from the owner down to the receptionist weed in the place,
Right.
And Jeff killed it at High Times for about 2 years, got a job as the lead programmer for The Onion, and he dropped my reference, and that was it. I got my dream job, the job I was born for.
Totally.
Couldn't believe it, man. It was like a miracle.
Life-changing experience.
I couldn't believe it.
I bet you were just so stoked to go to work every day.
I was stoked just to go and take the interview. I'm going to walk into High Times office and talk to Michael Kennedy, the owner of High Times. If I didn't get the job, I was almost enough for me, man. I was pretty psyched.
Yeah.
And I went into the interview, and Michael Kennedy, rest in peace, Michael. Kind of an intimidating guy, like a serious dude,
Very
like a
serious.
major player in counterculture history. Like,
yeah.
broke Tim Leary out of jail.
Business too,
Crazy,
you know.
man. This guy's a gangster at every level, like from the professional to the street level. Like,
right.
and I was nervous as hell, man. I went in there and he didn't even read my resume. He looks at it and he's like, Coffey, that's my last name.
Yeah.
He's like, we have a house in Ireland. Our neighbors are Coffeys and they're good people. I think you're going to do fine here. That was my whole interview. I was like,
amazing.
And that was that. 12 years later, man, like I love that job. That was a great job.
So what did you do there? Did you do the same thing the whole time you were there?
I started in 2005 as the director of technology. And director of technology at High Times means that anything that plugs into an electrical outlet is my responsibility, from the toaster to the website to the fax machine. Like we were a 15-person company. So that's where I started. Yeah.
You did a lot of coordinating too, like for events then?
I'm a paperwork and organization nerd. That's really like, I have this work style that I call alpha. I'm going to write a book about this one day. I call alpha lazy. So I cannot accept low level output. Like I want to do big things, but I'm also deeply lazy, so there's a conflict inside of me all the time. And the way I make it work for me is I go into a place, I find the hardest thing that this business is dealing with. I take it on and I do it for 5 or 6 months and figure out ways to make it easy. And then in 6 months, my alpha lazy techniques have got me doing the hardest thing in this company without really putting any effort. And everybody thinks I'm a dynamo. And I'm just like,
maximum efficiency.
Exactly. There we go. Maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
So I was able to employ alpha lazy in a really good way in High Times because they were in chaos, like organizational chaos.
Yeah.
They were just starting US Cups and things like that. We were going from the minor leagues to the big leagues right when I got hired.
Right.
And they needed major organizational help. And that's what I do. That's my forte. So like, we just match made in heaven. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I loved them and they loved me and it worked out great for 12 years,
Yeah. The perfect storm.
Yeah, it was great. We did big things together. It was awesome.
High Times did big things. I think some of the younger people might not know exactly like what went down at High Times, but like
we started doing cannabis cups when
changing the game.
They would send us to Europe to do a cannabis cup, and there was no guarantee that we weren't all going to end up in a European prison.
Yeah,
like there was no guarantee. Like, and we knew this going in. Like that was part of what made us a special crew, I think.
Yeah, and people did get arrested. Mila got arrested one time.
It happened, man. Like, you make an omelet, you break some eggs.
Yeah, totally. I remember when they arrested Mila that one year, and it's like, and Ariane bailed her out of jail. But like they arrested Mila out of all people. But yeah, she
was begging for it. Well, not begging for it.
She's tough as nails. Though. Yeah, she's ready for it.
Well, she was asking. We got our when that happened. We had just picked it. We used to do the Cannabis Cup at the Power Zone in Amsterdam, which was like a nightclub. Right. And the Power Zone closed its doors, and we found a new venue, which was much fancier, much nicer, and outside of the city limits of Amsterdam also, which turned out to be a problem because the local police didn't know how to deal with us. They raided us. They marched in with an army full of jackboots and like patted us all down and sent us our way.
Oh, I remember.
It was pretty great. Honestly, it turned out to be one of the best cups. Like, that was a lot of fun.
Good memories. Yeah.
But then Mila is marching around, going from cop to cop, asking, how much weed am I allowed to have? I think 300 grams was what the answer was, or maybe 600 grams. And she's like, look, 301 grams. Take me to jail right now.
Yeah. Classic Mila.
I want to go to jail for this.
Yeah. And she did. She did. Yeah, good times.
Dutch jail, though, man.
It's a different experience.
Yeah, dude. It's like I've stayed in hotel rooms worse than Dutch jail cells. Like,
yeah, Soma's been in the hospital. I don't know if you heard.
Man.
Yeah,
I hope you're doing well, Soma.
I just talked to him today, so Soma will know which episode got. But he's out of jail, or not out of jail, out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Which is similar for Soma because he's like smoking, and they don't like smoking in hospitals, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't like being institutionalized in any way.
In any way, shape, or form. So.
That was when we would go to Amsterdam. I would be one. They would send 3 of us early, like a week early, just to start getting things together, collect money from a couple of vendors who owe us money and things like that. And Soma was always our first stop because he would pay. First of all, he would buy a giant ass booth.
Right.
He would pay for all of it in cash. So we go there, go to Soma's house. I'd have to take the next day off because if you've ever gone to Soma's house, it's not like you can do anything tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
leave
true.
There with a sack full of money just to get everything going.
Right. Yeah, and someone loves smoking.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, love smoking hash, love smoking everything. So you like hash as well?
I used to be a huge dabber.
Yeah.
In fact, for maybe 2 years or so, I barely smoke flowers. All I did was dab. But since I've moved to California, I've kind of gone back to flowers.
There's such good flower out here.
There's so much variety, and like we were indoor growers in New York forever. You know, I've grown in closets, basements, attics, you name it. Like, and but I never was able to grow full sun. And we moved out here, and I'm in Vallejo. The climate is beautiful, man. I don't know if you guys know much about Vallejo, but it's like sunny and 75 degrees about 300 days a year. You know?
Yeah.
So we're full sun growers now, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm a convert. Like I used to think HPS was the answer, and that's not right, guys. Full sun is the fucking answer.
Yeah, Vallejo's changed so much since the Romper Room gang. You know, like back in the Mac Dre and E40, rapping about that stuff. And Vallejo, for better or worse, a lot of the Bay Area has changed, but I think Vallejo especially has cleaned up quite a bit.
It's a wild place, man. I love it.
It's still a little crazy.
I lived in New York my whole life, and I thought I knew what a bad neighborhood was until I moved to Vallejo.
Yeah.
But I personally, like, I thrive in a bad neighborhood, so I kind of love it there.
Yeah.
I know how to operate in a bad spot.
Yeah, you got to keep your head on a swivel.
Keep your head on a swivel. You don't jump out of a car in a parking lot. All these little things you do. I grew up in Brooklyn. Like I know how to do this. So
yeah, awareness. But that's just about life too. Being aware of your situation.
But on the bright side, we're done talking about negative shit in Vallejo. Vallejo is a wonderful place to live. It's a beautiful city with culture and heritage and a ferry that goes to San Francisco, and like it's beautiful. I love it, man.
Yeah, and there's access. There's restaurants. There's your Benicia's right there.
I believe in the potential of Vallejo.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many people moving there too. It's like the property values went up like crazy.
I didn't think I could ever buy a house. Like I was an apartment dweller. I thought I was a rental guy for the rest of my life, and we moved to Vallejo and bought our first house. And
nice.
Could have never happened if it wasn't for.
You got in at the right time too.
We did. We got in.
It's crazy.
My house has almost doubled in value since we bought it. The pandemic. Crazy.
Yeah, and there's no houses available really. Like the amount of properties available in California in general is just really difficult.
So we got a nice sized backyard, and I was a little bit afraid that I would have trouble with getting robberies, or maybe I'd piss off the neighbors if I grew weed. I'm a New Yorker, man. I don't know what California people are like growing weed next to them and stuff.
Right.
Apparently nobody gives a shit.
In Vallejo, dude, I mean, most places they don't give a shit.
My neighbors, like every fence that we share a fence with, they all grow weed. Yeah. And I noticed like some of them were just throwing seeds in the dirt and letting it do whatever. And there was like 12-foot tall males out in my backyard. And
oh God.
So I bought Jorge Cervantes grow Bibles for Christmas. And I swear to God, this is the truth. I gave it to all of my neighbors with a bow wrap, all the ones I know that are growing weed. And I was like, read this book. And let me tell you, these guys were so psyched.
You should have given them Danny Danko's book.
I didn't have copies of it. I would have, man. But like they're a bunch of Chicano guys, and they love that Jorge Cervantes.
Everybody loves Jorge.
I didn't have the heart to tell him he's Canadian, bro.
That's great. Classic. In the Bay Area, everyone grows everywhere. There's lots of people. I mean, most neighborhoods, you smell it.
Yep.
And it's also legal. It's legal to grow in most cities, I think, in most areas in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, they cannot stop you in California from growing indoors. Some counties can stop you from going or ask you not to go outdoors.
Yeah, I think Concord is like that. They don't want you growing outdoors.
Solana, technically, I can't grow outdoors in Vallejo, but everybody in Vallejo grows outdoors.
Totally. Yeah, they don't even want to mess with that in Oakland.
We have 34 cops, man. Nobody's going to come in.
Right. Seriously. Not unless they're going to buy some weed from you. But yeah, so High Times and then the cups. And I mean, I think that was like a big thing that happened 12 years ago when you started doing American cups.
Yeah.
Like it went from doing one cup a year for not 20 years, but
it was like a hobby for us. It was like, hey, let's go have a fun party in Amsterdam. That was like the High Time staff attitude towards cups.
To a full-on business. And then it became
6 a year, 100,000 people per cup.
Multi-million-dollar operation. And crazy. And
billboards, marketing campaigns, radio appearances. All
it was still a hurricane. It was still like herding cats for you guys.
It was.
And dealing with stoners and people that think they want to do business. And I mean, it was just crazy.
Well, from the outside looking in, I think a lot of people thought High Times was like a 100-person corporation or something. But we were always like 20 people in a room, man. Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, but it did feel like that. I mean, and to organize an event where you have that many people going, it takes a lot of organization. Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes.
Well, we made a ton of mistakes. But the thing I was proud of is like we never took a step backwards. Every cup was better than the last one the whole time I was there. Right. Like I'm very proud of that record. We made a ton of mistakes. We fucked up all the time.
Yeah. But that's part of life. That's part of life. That's part of growing too, making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, correcting them so that the next crop or the next event
This is how
can
progress
be better.
happens.
This is how
Yep.
progress happens. We make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. I talk about that a lot on my show.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, though.
Mistakes are a valuable teacher.
Yeah, and having a small enough ego to recognize that, like, to get better at something, like, you don't just learn how to play the guitar badass just right out. It takes a lot of time and repetition. You know what I mean? You learn how to, you make mistakes, and you have to have a small enough ego to just keep practicing and practicing, even if you suck. Everybody sucks in the beginning at whatever it is, whether not growing, because I think some people just get it right out the gate and crush.
Yeah.
You know, especially women. Women cultivators, for whatever reason, I feel like they just tend to do better right out the gate than men do. Not a sexist remark or anything like that.
I agree with you. There's a level of attention to detail that the female gender is born with that I don't think that we are.
Yeah, and it's and it's so individual. I mean, that's just generalizing. I know some people, some of my friends, just right out the gate. I mean, I don't think right out the gate I was the best at growing or even making
terrible.
seeds. Like
I made every rookie mistake in the book. I put Kool-Aid on my plants to make them taste. I did every stupid idiot thing that you could do as a young grower.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember I was excited to get a couple thousand seeds per light, and now I can get 45 to 50,000 seeds per 4x4.
Crazy.
And I mean, it's like, but that's the whole thing. But you're excited that you got some, but not realizing what the potential was. And now that I see the potential of 45,000, I'm like, 50,000, no problem. Quality too. Like if you've never experienced quality at the level, there's always levels to this stuff.
Sure.
And so most people are exposed to this level. They get something a little better. They think that's amazing. But if you show them this, then it's like, oh, wow.
Yep.
Amazing.
That's kind of how I felt. Like I'll go back to what I said earlier. The pinnacle of cannabis breeding to me.
Yeah.
Chem 91.
Yeah.
Like there's been things that are almost as good. There's never been anything better, in my opinion.
And the funny thing is it was a bag seed.
It was a mistake. Yeah, it was an accident.
I don't know. But I mean, it was
He wasn't a breeder.
Yeah,
he wasn't he wasn't any of that. But he was smart enough to save his cut of a very lucky seed that he popped, and here we are with this.
Popped a bunch of them, and shout out to the whole Chem Dog crew.
Love
all
those
guys.
Man.
Yeah,
Greg's the man.
We had Skunk VA on a while back, and he's an amazing guy. But Mike P. Bud, all these guys.
P. Bud.
G's amazing.
Yeah.
I
saw AJ and JJ. AJ's got a seed thing coming out now too. Like
wild. Some AJ sour diesel seeds.
Yeah. You have to meet him and give him cash to get him though. Like you can't buy him online or anything like that. You actually have to be next to him face to face and hand money to him.
Right. He's gonna pick and choose who he sells to. Yeah, sour diesel seeds. That's an interesting one because I think JJ from Top Dog has actually done a really good job with his back crossing.
Have you popped any of those?
I have smoked some that other people have grown to show me how good they are because I struggled making, we did a lot of back crosses with sour diesel to try. That was what he's doing is what I was trying to do 15 years ago.
Sure.
And he's actually done it a lot better. I think he started from a better place than we did. We started with the Spicy Jack times sour diesel.
You actually tried to recreate it from...
I wanted to create seeds of sour diesel.
Oh, wow. And from its base elements, or from you had a sour diesel clone that you...
We have sour diesel. Basically, we had the real sour diesel.
Sure.
Our crew had the real sour diesel, the chems, all the chem dogs, chem sis, all that stuff.
Sure.
But I wanted sour diesel seeds, and I wanted to sell sour diesel seeds so everybody in the world could enjoy it. And it was really difficult because it was a Spicy Jack cross that my partners had made. And then basically we took that and basically put it back on the sour and then put it back on the sour again to find sour diesel. And the Spicy Jack wasn't like Jack Herrera that everybody knows. This was a funky, like pungent Jack.
Did it have that urinal cake tinge to it, or was it like...
Not so some of them did, but most of them weren't like that hazy terpenoline. Sure. This was more like funky, and it went really well with it, but it was its own unique thing. It wasn't sour diesel, even through the back crosses. And I think my buddy Micah that I've talked about on the show took that 4 times back. And then, so we had 4 back crosses. And at that point, we didn't work on it anymore. It was cool. It was its own thing.
Yeah.
There was the 7A sour. I don't know if people remember the 7A sour that we did, that Micah and I did together. But it was unique. It was its own thing, but it wasn't sour diesel. And then we went over to Europe and messed with some Europeans that were like crossing it with White Widow. And so we had to cut over there doing some White Widow crosses, and that's definitely not the right direction. The way JJ did it was good. I think there's a couple other people that have done it as well, but JJ's really gone through going for that nose, and it's very difficult. A lot more difficult than what most people think because it's not always as straight and forward as it looks like on paper. On paper, it looks like, oh, you do this, this, and this, and you get this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that can happen in that time period to where you get different things.
Yeah. Quantum mechanics of play, man. You can't.
So
you can't.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we have this real interesting tie to cannabis that, you know, it makes us feel whole. Some of us, maybe not everybody, but I feel whole from cannabis.
Yeah, I get that.
I feel like it completes me to a degree. Like I wouldn't be doing anything else. I feel like this is where I belong in life.
Oh, no doubt.
know?
Same here. I agree, man. Like cannabis from like I have a serious ADD issue, I think.
Yeah.
Undiagnosed ADD issue from when I was a child that cannabis fixes. And that's the reason it's undiagnosed, because I never had to go further than cannabis.
Right. Totally. Well, and it totally balances you out, right? Like it does the same thing for me. I mean,
I grew up in a weed house too. My parents are basically just like I am. Like my dad was slinging in the 70s and stuff, you know, like they smoked weed in front of us. Like a lot of parents drink water in front of their kids, you know, like it was not even a thing. Like it wasn't even like,
right.
So for me, it's like being around cannabis and dealing with cannabis is normal as talking to my mom or something, you know?
Yeah. I would feel weird if it wasn't in my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those interesting things. Psychedelics too. Like
I struggle. I love psychedelics, but I struggle to embrace them as easily as I can embrace cannabis.
Yeah. For me, it's on the same level. It just depends on what it is, but like mushrooms and people are doing all these microdoses. When I was younger, we didn't do microdoses.
Nope,
when
I
we
didn't
were
even know what
kids.
that was, man.
No, nobody did. Even weed though. Like we smoked weed to get high. We didn't smoke weed a couple puffs and that was it. It was like, we're finishing the joint. We're not going to put the joint away and then pull it out later. You know what I mean? Like that never happened.
When we were young, my brother and I had a thing where we were always smoking in the car in Florida, you know, in the 90s. So you didn't even want to have a roach in the ashtray. So whoever had the last hit of the roach had to eat the roach. That was kind of like our thing.
Disgusting.
It's kind of disgusting.
You better smoke it all the way down so there's not a big roach, you know? But you guys weren't using crutches either. So it was like you're smoking.
Yeah.
Smoking it down to the little bits. Yeah, well, let's fire some of this stuff up.
Let's do it, man. What are we puffing on here?
This is some Skittles.
Who rolls these? Gorilla fingers, man.
I've been working on the perfect joint for a while now with the tips. So we got professional joint roller on Instagram. Big shout out. He rolled these actual. These are the last few I have.
Wait. Professional joint roller? That's a job? Like somebody does
That's
that?
his name. Yeah, that's his Instagram name.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want that job, we're looking. We're hiring. So I think part of what we do as James Ladd Genetics, we want to show the finished product. So like if you're going to buy seeds or clones from us, you'll be able to have access to the flower, to see the finished flower. So you don't have to wait 90 days.
Sure.
That's one of the beauties of kind of what we're doing. But also, I smoke joints like this. And so what I wanted is to be able to share that experience with people. And this is still probably a year out before we have these to market in California. But I want people to experience the same thing I experience when I get to smoke. And so then they get to really get the full flavor of it. And we've been, so like, for example, with the R&D process, we were doing some of these monsters. Where these are great. These are cool. This is a 5 grammer, you know what I mean? But it's got a big tip, but it burns hot.
Yeah.
So it burns
like
too
a
hot.
Campfire in front of your face.
Like you lose the terps. Like you still taste them and it's still good, but it's just not as good as this shape and this size. I feel like these are 3.5 grams. And you get the real full flavor. And
I get clowned on all the time, but I prefer a skinny joint. Like to me, it's the equivalent of like a low temp dab. Like you're like a nice little.
Well, it goes through and it's not hot, and so you're not killing those terps. I mean, this is fun. It looks cool. It's like but all these things are like they've been researching for cigars for a long time. And if you look at the best smoking cigars, some people like the big hot ones that burn. Yeah. But the flavor profile is not nearly as delicate on a cigar as it is on a joint.
Sure.
You're looking for those subtleties and you want to be able to get those like extreme subtleties,
right? Not
even just subtleties, but like extreme subtleties with some of this stuff.
Can you I don't know if this is even legal or not. Can you legally sell seeded bud? Like,
sure.
So like you were just saying, you would like people to be able to smoke the weed, see the weed before they grow it out. How come nobody packages seeds just in bud? Like, grow out a seeded bud, put it in an eighth, let me buy it.
You could, but you wouldn't want to smoke that bud because it's less potent for one thing.
Sure. But you at least get an idea of what you're going to grow out, right?
Yeah, but then, that basically goes on to our model where you'll be able to get our flower and see flower samples so you don't have to wait the 90 days. And also, we're going to have joints of stuff that'll be in metric to where you can check it out. We're at, tissue culture, all this stuff. So if you're getting seeds from us, you'll be able to see the finished product. You go to an event, and I guarantee you, we're not the only ones we didn't start this. We're not the last ones to do it. I think everybody's probably going to do this eventually. It just makes sense as a business model to be able to show proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
We do QR codes with stuff too, and a lot of COAs, lots of testing involved with everything that we do.
Yeah. Seeds can be a shady business, man. There's a lot of weird stuff going
there's
on.
So much. There's so much
like
shadiness.
you buy it and then you don't even know what you got for 12 weeks. Like,
no, or a year or some people. But the thing is I read a statistic somewhere, and so maybe somebody knows that's in the chat, but 75% of all seeds that are bought retail are collected and not germinated, which I totally believe.
Sure.
But you may not ever
70% seems like a lot. Like, I believe it's a lot, but that sounds like a lot.
But if you look at how many seeds I have in my seed collection, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you look at percentage wise of
how many years do you consider a seed to be viable for? Like,
if you store them correctly, you can store them for 20 years, maybe longer. I mean, I don't know about longer, but I know that they stay good if you control the environment and you keep the humidity really low and basically take care of them. You don't want fluctuations in humidity like that.
In the freezer, or is that too cold?
No, the freezer's too cold.
Too cold.
Yeah, you want to keep your so everyone has a different opinion on this, but like that 55 to 60 degrees with really low humidity, that's ideal. And the thing is you don't want a big fluctuation in temperature. You don't want the extremes.
Yeah.
And the longer you have it in a good environment like that, the longer it'll be good for. And there's embryo rescue now. So if you were to keep it in that environment and you were struggling 30 years from now, the embryo rescue 30 years from now is going to be a lot better than it is today. But it works.
What's embryo rescue? How does that work? Tell me about it.
Embryo rescue is an amazing thing. Big shout out to Justin, Apical Biotech, my partner, good friend. He does embryo rescue. I got to witness.
It's like take a non-viable seed, somehow make it viable again?
Something that just doesn't pop. They do it in culture, right? And basically in a petri dish using hormones and using the thing is with the embryo rescue, it's like the game Operation. It kind of feels like that. So they got a pair of tweezers where they actually crack the seed and then pop the coat off of the top and then remove the embryo.
Like surgeons, they scrub.
Dude, they do. They absolutely go extremely sterile.
Wow.
I'll give you a tour of our TC lab. And
I wish I knew about this. Just this past season, rest in peace, Milo, Big Buddha. I had actually it was Elise McDonough, a former coworker from High Times, had a blister pack that he gave us the year he won his first cup of the cheese, and I
still have one.
Oh my God! We tried to pop it and it didn't work. But man, I really wanted that to work.
Yeah, I mean the cheese cut's around though. The real cheese cut is around. Rest in peace, Milo. We lost a lot of friends in the last couple years.
For real.
But yeah, Milo's a good dude. I always had a smile on his face.
Nice guy, man. Great weed.
Yep.
I didn't think they had that good of weed in England until I met Milo. He changed my whole mind about that.
Totally. And that cheese is something special on its own. Unique flavor profile.
He when we had the cup we were talking about earlier, when we got busted, they stashed a suitcase behind like some art display that had like $200,000 worth of seeds in it, and me, my wife Melissa, and Jen Bernstein from High Times smuggled it out of there while the cops were there. Put it in the car. He didn't know any of this, and later that night we found him at where was it? Maybe it was Barney's Uptown or something like that.
Right.
We were like, oh, wait, hang on. We went and got it, brought it out to him, and he started crying, man. Like, the dude is shedding, like, they thought it was gone. Like,
I bet. That would suck. But it's happened. It's happened. Subcool lost all his seeds in the fire years ago.
Another one. Rest in peace, Subcool, man.
Yeah.
That was my piece of advice to people when I was at High Times is like, if you want to win a cannabis cup and you don't have any connections to a breeder or a cud or something like that, the best place to start from ground zero is just buy a pack of Subcool seeds online and pop them out. And the first San Francisco Cannabis Cup, somebody actually did that. And it was Vortex. He called it God's Pussy.
Yeah.
And Valerie Corral had to go up on stage and give this guy an award for God's Pussy. We were all mortified.
That's so amazing.
And then we had to issue a formal apology and correction because he told us it's actually Vortex that I bought a pack of seeds from Subcool.
Dude, that's hilarious. That first San Francisco Cup was pretty exceptional.
We were expecting 800 or 900 people, and it was more like 5,000 or 6,000 people. Like,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the police helped us manage the crowd. We thought the cops were coming to shut us down. We didn't know. We were coming from New York to a.
Yeah.
You hear stories about how liberal San Francisco is as a New Yorker, but we had no first experience.
I mean, I still have friends that I met at that event. I'm still industry people. Mike from Gas House, Big Mike. He's Russian. I'm Finnish, so Finnish ancestors. And so him and I hang out still. But we met at that event.
Yeah.
And cool dude. Like a lot of good people. We were doing like crazy dabs back then too. Like the rigs were completely different than they are now.
We got to a point working the front desk at that event. It was like me and my wife and Mary McAvoy, who was the publisher at High Times, were sitting at the front desk scanning every ticket of people coming in.
Yeah.
And we were only expecting like 800 people. So we didn't think it was going to be the crush there was. And now we got a line of like 4,000 people right in front of us. Right. So like basically at that time, if you came up to the desk, looked me in the eyes and said, I'm on the list, I pretended to find your name and said, all right, see,
know that for future events, guys. Like that.
I'm sure they don't do that anymore, but at that time,
But when it's crazy, that's what people do,
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, so that was interesting. What I remember about that event, and it was at the Segway? It's in San Francisco.
Yeah, it was a wedding
district.
venue, man. Like the guys who ran it, it was like what a cool couple, super cool gay couple that ran a high-end wedding space. It was just for weddings in San Francisco.
Furniture district.
And they
chill.
were down to give us our space to do our crazy shit. And they were super cool, man. They helped us in every way.
Yeah, I remember though, there was like the poacher, the guy who didn't pay for a booth that was selling medical recommendations because they wanted you to get the medical recommendations to smoke at the event.
Right.
And so there was a dude that was in a bus and my buddy had a medical booth. And he was so pissed because this dude was making all the money because of the line they were by there. So they were just pumping out medical cards.
As a High Times employee, we had to act like we hated it, but we really loved that shit, man. Like, to me, if the High Times Cannabis Cup felt like the parking lot of a Grateful Dead show, then we nailed it. That's what we were aiming for,
Yeah. Some shakedown street action.
That's it. It was all shakedown street, the whole thing.
Man, yeah. And it's interesting, the flower back then, because that was like Girl Scout cookies was there around.
I feel like there were some entries of GS.
But GSC didn't win until I won with the cross in 2012.
That cup was also the very first time. I wasn't competition coordinator at that cup.
Yeah.
They finally, High Times gave me the opportunity to judge. It was the first time I ever judged.
Which, in Amsterdam? Or
No, in San Francisco. The first San Francisco Cup. Like I was responsible for ticketing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't responsible for running that contest. It was like one of the only ones in the whole time I worked there that I wasn't responsible for running. I took that one off so I could judge and kind of get some This was my pitch to the corporate. Let me judge so I could see from the inside how judging works and I'll make competition better.
Nice.
And they let me do it, man.
That's awesome.
Alpha lazy, bro.
Those old school judges kits were awesome too.
It was great. It was great, but it was the first time I ever dabbed. Like Phillips RX entered I want to say it was Ingrid.
I think I remember that.
Man, oh my God. I had to take an afternoon off. I took a dab, and it was the first dab I ever did.
Yeah.
We didn't even have rigs yet. We had hookah coals and glass straws and shit.
For sure.
Next level. Like I've never been that high in my life.
Most people don't even know about that. So we should probably talk about the ways we used to dab. Before dabbing, there was an atom smasher, which was one of the ways that it was a glass pipe that had holes on the side, and then you heat up the element and push it down on your hash.
We had a guy from British Columbia send us a swing. It was basically like a down stem with a titanium plate and a swing.
Yeah.
And you just get this titanium red hot and put your dabs on it and suck it up.
I think they called those bells. They had the
exactly,
bells, the bell that you would put the smoke on, and then you put it under, and those were cool.
We got one of those, and we started bringing some dabs back to New York from these cups because you couldn't even find dabs in New York.
Well, the first way we did dabs was definitely on coal. Like you'd heat up a piece of coal, and it'd be like an ashtray or a cool little dish, right? And then you drop a little bit on, and you'd either have a pen cap.
I was doing that before I even saw BHO. Like we were doing that with like basically RSO hash. Before RSO was even called RSO. Like people were making alcohol extracts and stuff.
Yeah, we were doing that back in the day for sure too. So, but even like the old school bubble hash, that's how we smoked it before there was rigs and stuff like that.
Butter knives on the stove.
Yeah, but dude, the hot knives on the stove. So those were great for old school hash, but not real high quality bubble hash. It would like completely ruin it. You wouldn't get the experience.
We had a fader. You remember that product? It was like a little black box with a ceramic stick. Yeah. And the stick got red hot instantly when you plugged it in. Mm-hmm. And there was no on-off switch. There was no dead man switch. So
Yeah.
You plug it in and you do a dab that makes you cough so hard you drop it, you're basically going to burn your house down. It was like a
Oh,
like a little
yeah.
death trap. Right
Totally.
on.
That's really cool.
They were great. They were great. I think it burned it like 550 or 600 degrees or something like that.
And then the rigs just got out of control. So they had rigs and they kept getting bigger. In the beginning, they were big, monstrous rigs. And there still are cool, big, monstrous rigs, but most of us smoke out of small rigs. Or now, you know, these rigs. We got the Puffco. We've got the
Speaking of the
Carta.
Puffco, like I was always 90% on board with the Puffco. And then we recently got the 3D XL chamber.
Uh-huh.
It's like a whole different product with that thing, man.
Really?
Oh man, it's like it's not as good as a high quality quartz banger. I think it's better.
Really, I'm a huge fan. So I haven't tried it, but I like the Carta 2 from Focus.
I haven't tried that one.
Focus V. I think I got it here. We can try it out right now.
Yeah, let's take a look. Why not?
Dude, I mean, I'm a huge fan, and you know, you're not having to get a torch like this and friggin' you're out in public. You know, it's a little weird when you see people trying to fire up.
I always thought the Puffco Peak, I give it a double plus for convenience
And innovation.
They skipped a generation of product. I feel like people were starting to make these e-rigs, and then they skipped a whole generation of them and came out with their product. It's like a level beyond what anybody else was doing, I believe personally.
Yeah.
And this, but I still would prefer a perfect temperature quartz banger to it. Like,
Me too. So for sure, I do slow starts, right? So I do the cold start, where it's like I put the extract in and I just heat it up as much as necessary to get it to smoke, and then you get the most amount of terps. That's my style. I mean, everyone has their own way, but
so this new 3D XL, you can not only control the temperature very accurately, you can control the airflow. So you can kind of like tweak how hot or cold your dab is and how dense, like how much resistance you're getting when you pull on the.
Nice.
Pretty nice, man. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. We're going to have to do a side-by-side on one of these shows, like Puffco versus Carta.
Sponsored by Roger.
That's hilarious. I feel like as we've gotten older, and as I've gotten older, but like looking at the industry now with what the industry has become, we really need to be united and not like, fuck this person, fuck that person.
No.
The ones that are here, let's fucking give props to everybody for even being here, for even being around this long. If you're a legal brand, big ups. Glad you're still doing it, dude. Like, that's what it's all about. I mean, people talk about wanting to go back to the black market, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. We just need to figure out how to do it right with what we're doing now. And I mean, I love seeing these seed companies thrive. I love seeing new genetics.
Yep.
I love seeing innovation. All this stuff, but we need to like,
I love seeing them stop sending people to jail for bullshit.
Absolutely.
Like,
you don't,
above all,
no one belongs in jail for weed.
Absolutely not.
And
not in the entire world. No one in the entire world.
Yeah, if you could fill a room full of cartons of cigarettes and another room full of alcohol, you should be able to fill your house full of as much fucking weed as you want and preserve it, because weed can be preserved for a good amount of time. I think that it's silly to worry about any of that kind of stuff. There's so many other things like homeless that we should be worried about. You know, the homeless situation is all fucked. But that's all. I try not to talk about too many depressing things.
There's a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, especially when there's so many good things like the cannabis cups to discuss.
I haven't been to a cannabis cup since I left High Times.
Oh, really? So you haven't experienced the Emerald Cups or anything?
No, Emerald Cup I go to. I love that. I love the Emerald Cup.
I love Emerald Cup too.
Yeah, I like the vibe there. People running it are super cool. Tim Blake, those guys are awesome.
Yeah, they do a great job.
They really care about it. They do good. They do cool stuff.
They really care about the weed. I think that's part of it for sure. The passion and about maintaining the focus on the product and not about on money.
Yeah. As a former High Times employee, I want to put this on the record. I know a lot of people claim that our contest may have been corrupt or scammy. Absolutely not. Never, not once, ever. We made a system to allow a group of people to pick out what the best weed was. Was the system perfect? No. It got better every year. Did it make mistakes occasionally? Are there things that won that I wouldn't have picked personally? Absolutely. But we never put our personalities into that decision. The system decided.
Right.
There it is. And that's the truth.
Well,
God's honest truth.
There was some incidents back in the day with like where you could buy cups as a coffee shop.
Every time we found, in it, then now you're talking about another ball game. The Amsterdam coffee shop thing,
right?
We allowed the somebody to buy a ticket and
Sure.
vote and give an award.
Yeah.
And
this wasn't on you guys. I'm just saying
over
that this
time,
is,
that system became so corrupted by
Yeah,
all these
manipulated,
players that
right.
it became a lesser award, and that's how we treated it.
right.
The real award in Amsterdam was the Sea Breeders' Cup, which was
Right.
judged by our private group of judges.
Hey.
And, yeah,
I wouldn't be here today without it, probably. It's funny how impactful I think that was for me in my career and being featured in High Times.
I love that, man. I'm glad. You're
Yeah.
a great guy. You deserve it.
Good times. And, it's like we didn't go in thinking we were going to win the cup. We went in there trying to put the best weed we could. And the thing is I think the first time I entered, I lost a bunch of times too, guys. So it's not like I won the first time out there. We had lost. And so I had this amazing extract that we'd entered, and they didn't even know how to really judge it. And I thought for sure we're going to win. Drove up to Seattle, entered it in there with my buddy. And I was wrong. And we lost. And I think I saw the other stuff. The other entries were better.
One thing we used to do also, like a guy like you maybe would enter in the California market, and I would go out of my way to try to get you to judge maybe in Seattle or something like that.
Right.
So you could see the sausage. I want you to see the inside of the sausage as a competitor, as a guy who's putting his money into
For
the
sure.
system. That was important to us.
Yeah, it's so funny. I could have probably won 2 cups in Amsterdam, but I didn't enter my OG in the same year. But if I would have entered my OG in, I wouldn't have been able to share it with Marlon Asher, and me and him are good friends now. So everything kind of happens. Oh yeah, the ganja farmer, dude, he's doing great. He's doing great. Got a new album coming out, and he's just a solid person. But like I met him at that 2012 Cup at the Milk Veg. Actually, I think we met before, but I've got him some OG, and then they kept wanting all of my OG Kush. And if I would have entered that OG, I probably could have won.
Yeah.
But I was happy with just winning one thing. It's like it was pretty amazing the fact that we won it all. Because we had the smallest booth. So I can attest to the fact that you guys did a good job, especially there, because we weren't the guy. Cali Connection was across from us, and they had like this 50 or 60 foot long booth by 20 feet tall, and we were a little 10 by 10.
Yep. None of that mattered in the competition.
None of that mattered. And the thing is like
my sales guys didn't even know what numbers your entries were. Like we kept it separate, 2 separate worlds, man. Like intentionally.
Yeah.
One of the things we started figuring out, so like you would come to the desk with your entry, and some people would see us write our number on the bag, the code number,
right?
And they started to remember it, and then they'd try to figure out who the judges were and drop their number. We caught wind to that early, so what we started doing is you would come, and I would tell you, all right, your Sativa 1 is your entry,
right?
And that would be the number I put in the system. But then when we broke it down for the judges, that all got scrambled with a second set of numbers,
right?
So your Sativa 1 would become Sativa 32 or whatever.
Sure.
And nobody knew that. How to descramble it except for the 3 of us running the competition. We built all kinds of things into it like that because like
you have to.
I didn't want to lose the job. It was the best job I ever had, man. And to me, the only way I can maintain job security, I thought, was to run a clean competition. That's all I cared about.
There were some years where Hype won the cup too.
Hype is a powerful tool, man.
Hype is a powerful thing. So Tangi, which is so recognizable, that's the big thing. Like it was so recognizable that the judges, it was the most popular thing at the time.
Novelty wins too. Put something in a box that nobody's ever seen before, and even if it's not the best thing in the box, the judges gravitate to it.
I think there was one time in LA where there was like 10 Tangi entries too. Sometimes you get that where it's such a popular cross, everybody's loving it that 10 people enter. I mean, OG Kush was kind of like that. There was. Over the years, hazes.
There was probably 5 years where, especially the indica and the hybrid category, if it wasn't like OG gas, you had no chance.
Yeah, over in Europe, the amnesias, people had everybody's got the amnesia, super lemon, one of those. What about Spanibus?
I've never been.
I cannot believe.
My dad he died in 2019.
Yeah,
he was a world traveler. He was really it was his main thing. He was so mad at me. He died mad at me because I've been to Europe 8 times. I never left the city walls of Amsterdam.
Really? Well, you got to come to Spain this year.
I would love to.
2024.
Really
Let's do it. I got, I did my booth with Greenhouse, and we're probably going to do a booth with Greenhouse again. But it's an amazing experience, and everybody. It's all the same. Yeah, I mean, literally, it's the same people, and we all go out to dinner and hang out. And a lot of them, it's kind of like how Amsterdam was. It's the one time a year I get to see a lot of people that maybe I only get to see that one time a year.
Yeah.
Or less.
Yeah.
And as we're getting older, it's just great seeing some of these people still doing their thing and, all over.
Yeah.
South Africa. We got friends all over South America, South Africa. And it's just some of the magic of High Times got carried on over into Spanibus.
I love that, man. I love that. And what we did in Amsterdam was really special, I thought. Like
Yeah, it was absolutely, I mean, it was a game-changing thing, and it was really special, especially the people. I mean, we all have great memories. It's kind of like how I can imagine how disco was. Like once it was gone, and it'll
Yeah.
never be the same. That's the real high times experience. Like,
Amsterdam was a perfect venue. Like
yeah,
if we for whatever reason in an alternate universe did the same progression, but it was New York and not Amsterdam, like you would walk around New York for a week and never bump into another Cannabis Cup judge. Like
right.
Amsterdam was like such a perfect tiny little capsule. Like
Oh yeah,
every time I left the hotel room, oh look, there's James, there's Soma,
right.
there's
When it's a small enough group that everybody kind of knows everybody too.
we
Like, I
yeah,
mean,
everywhere you go, you see somebody with a lanyard in Amsterdam during
yeah,
that week. I loved it, man.
yeah, good experiences, and then celebrating afterwards, celebrating Thanksgiving together with people. And I would say that the High Times Cups were very tribal
Yeah,
to a degree. Like we were a tribe. We had our
yeah.
own tribe of
I give Steve Hager a lot of credit for that too. Like when
yeah,
he like seeded the idea, that was his. He wanted this to be exactly what you're saying. Like
yeah.
that was what he wanted.
We were the tribe.
It
Yeah, and it's like
was a
these
ritual. It wasn't, or a
very
ceremony. It wasn't like an event. That's what he wanted.
no.
That's what he wanted.
And if you ever won the cup in Amsterdam, you would get to experience the real, like the ceremonial side of it, which was one of the most amazing, profound
Yeah.
experiences that I've ever had in my life. Was winning the cup, and then the cup party afterwards for the people that had won previously, and then the cup winners.
Yeah.
And nobody else does anything really like that. But very ceremonial, good people. You know,
I loved
Amsterdam.
those old Dutch cannabis cups too, like the Sweetbriar.
Oh yeah,
It's like a piece of art by a pretty famous artist that you can only obtain by winning a cannabis. That's a pretty unique thing, I think.
totally. I still have mine.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of them.
I
now.
love
They're
the
really
newer
cool.
ones too, like the new ones that they do now,
The
the Alex
US
Gray
ones that were like real thick.
super dope.
Yeah,
Man.
they didn't bend. Like you got to be careful with the European ones. Like
They're
you-
soft. Yeah.
yeah, they're soft, but really amazing art. So yeah, so tell me what you're up to now.
Well, when the world fell apart in 2019, I kind of pulled back from the working world. I've been doing consultations and stuff, but
Yeah.
honestly, I've been growing weed, fishing.
Fishing. I see you're fishing. That's great. I love fishing as well. I just don't have time for it.
Oh, dude,
There's all kinds of stuff I love that I just don't have time for because
I live 5 minutes from the Carquinez Strait. So, like, I roll a joint in my living room. I put my pole in the car.
Yeah.
I warm up the car, light the joint. I'm still smoking when I'm standing at the water throwing bait, man. And
yeah, it's awesome.
world-class striper fishing.
Yeah, striper. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there too, but yeah, the stripers are
I
awesome.
love it, man. Yeah, I mean, as far as work stuff goes, when I moved here, we started the Whoopi Amaya brand.
Yeah,
And we decided to go the manufacturing route rather than the IP licensing route. You know, we were going to make it ourselves.
right.
So I got thrown into managing a commercial kitchen for the first time in my life, which was
Fun.
pretty. Yeah, oh man, yeah, serious experience, man.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of.
There's a
lot
big
of work.
learning curve though too. I'm sure.
I know more about it than I ever thought I would know in my life. You
Yeah.
know, and what I've gotten really good at is, back to the alpha lazy thing, is how to take a home cook's recipe and turn it into an SOP, a recipe calculator, and something you could hand to a contract manufacturer, start churning out product.
That's awesome.
And this is what I offer to people now. You know,
Yeah.
I work with people I know and stuff. I'm not really fishing for new clients, but like I help people bring products to market, basically.
But yeah, the whole efficiency side of your past ties in really well to restaurants because at the end of the day, it's all about efficiency because the more efficient you are, the more money you make. But that goes all over. Like that goes with grow rooms too and cultivation, even seed production. It's like the more efficient you are, the more money you can make. And it's not all about money, but at the same time, you got to keep your lights on. You got to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right.
Yeah.
And that's the same mentality that
Yeah.
you've had. Is
I
like,
mean, you've also got to develop processes that don't burn people out, man. You want somebody to work with you long term. You can't, and some people can work really hard for a short term.
Yep.
But it destroys them, man. And then what do you end up with?
seriously, I mean, it's a struggle. You got guys working 12-hour days or something like that.
Unsustainable, man.
No, it's sustainable. It's totally sustainable. But also as a business owner, as opposed to an employee, I mean, there's no work-life balance for what I do really, but it's okay. I enjoy what I'm doing every day. I'm freaking blessed to have a job.
That's been my blessing and problem in life is whenever I get a job with somebody, I work with somebody, I
Yeah.
take it on as the culture of my life. It's not just my job.
Right.
That's it. That's
You
right.
embody
That's
the
it.
whole
Yeah.
experience. Yeah. Well, and it is an experience. And I feel like each time as you go through life, you can gain some more knowledge and some more experience. And yeah, it makes you a better person too. It's like better learning who you are. I think that's the big thing, and learning where you belong in the world. And the more experiences you have, that you can put it into perspective. I don't know. I think we were talking about data points earlier, and I believe that even data points with that, the more experiences you have, the more data points you can collect on who you really are and who
Right.
you want to be and where do you want to be. Do you want to be working 12 to 16-hour days, or do you want to work 4-hour days and hang out on the beach?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because all those things are possible. That's the beauty of it. All those, whatever you want to dream of, it's possible in this day and age. It's possible if you make the right moves and you're efficient.
Efficiency is the key.
Yeah, cannabis. You're mostly smoking your home grow. Do you go to dispensaries?
I try not to go to dispensaries. When I do go to dispensaries, I'm really into CBX right now, cannabiotics. Those guys are growing some great stuff. I think.
Nice,
Also, High Times fam in there. That's it.
nice, good stuff.
I like to smoke what I grow personally. Like even though like I can grow really good weed. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's not always the best weed I have access to,
Well, let's dive
but I
into
enjoy
that.
smoking it at another level than the weed that I buy it.
So, do you grow soil? Do you grow cocoa? What are your preferences
I've
as far as
done it-
substrate?
All right, in a perfect scenario for me, if I have a dream grow room, it's in the Northeast in December, drawing in winter air to cool the room, growing in rock wool with GH salts and hydrogen peroxide.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
Oh, man.
I know you're gonna look at me like I'm
Yeah,
crazy.
No.
Let me tell you where
no
that comes from, though,
comment.
man. Like I grew up as a GH 3-part guy.
Sure, me too. I think most of us, at least,
I
use it-
transitioned into a Lucas formula guy with that same 3-part. I learned about Lucas formula, which is just like basically cutting out the grow portion of the 2-part and balancing with just the micro and the flora,
Mhm.
lower ppms and more often feeding. And what the end goal is something that's not going to play a role in the expression of the terpenes in this plant. Like it's a neutral element in
Sure.
the plant. That was my theory in starting out, at least. And then I did this for a while. I got the job at High Times. I got to try all kinds of products, and I did.
Sure.
I love Botanicare Proline. I had a good experience with that, and a couple other things. A lot of these guys I don't really like anymore because they all got sold to Monsanto's or whatever. But at the time, these are the things I really liked.
Sure.
I went to see Greg Chemdog's grow, which to me, it's still to this day, was the best weed I ever smoked in my life.
Really?
And what was
That's
Greg
awesome.
growing with? Fucking GH 3-part.
No
Lucas
way.
formula, a little hydrogen peroxide.
Chemdog,
all
I think,
rock
does really well. And it's very cultivar specific.
Yeah.
And
He
also,
locked me in for life. I saw that in his
Yeah.
room and I was like, that's it.
That's it. That's what you're doing.
That's it. And I do it indoor and outdoor right now.
You do it outdoor as well.
I do.
Salts.
Yeah, salts, more often, much lower ppm feeding. So I feed them like 3 or 4 times a
So
week.
outside, you prefer that over soil.
I grow in soil, not
you grow
rock wool.
soil with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
3-part. Yeah,
with
yeah,
a
yeah.
very low ppm Lucas formula ratio of the GH 3-part.
And you're adding any microbes?
Not at all, man.
No earthworm castings
No,
in there with your stuff? Or teas? No tea?
Not that I disrespect any of it. I love it
Yeah.
all, but no, not for me.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah,
And
I've smoked
feel like-
amazing weed, grown with all that stuff, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I love the guys that do that stuff. But that's
well, and you're a real smoker too, so I know that you're not bullshitting because that's just amazing. Yeah, for you.
My philosophy in that pursuit of what I'm going to grow my weed with was I just want something to let the plant do the work of the
Mhm.
flavor. I don't want molasses. I don't want anything that's going to flavor the weed. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's low road shit.
Yeah.
Get great genetics. That's where you get your flavor.
I like
you know?
it. Yeah. JamesLoudGenetics.com.
It works better for some strains than others too. Like I had
I
a
agree
ton of success
100%.
with like things that are big eaters, man. Like strawberry cough, you could dump nitrogen on strawberry and it does fine.
So what are you growing right now? What flavors?
So in 2019, former coworker, a lot of you guys might know him, Rick Cusick,
Yeah.
was going through some serious health problems, and we had just started an outdoor crop. I had bought some clones. I had popped some seeds. We let the males go intentionally to seed out the females a little bit.
Yeah.
The next season, we call those Cusick's beard in honor of Rick, who is recovering from some pretty bad stuff, and
But still around.
still around. So like
Absolutely.
we grew out 30 of them, 19 females, the F1 round. We kept all the males, stored the pollen together. Maybe we should have kept them separate. We kept it all together.
You
in one jar.
homogenized all the pollen.
I still have it
Yeah.
in a jar. So for the next 4 seasons after that, we would lightly pollinate everything and only save the seeds from the pheno that we're trying to isolate, the one that we like.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm working a free consultation out of you right here. Does that even make sense?
Sure. I mean, it's not the worst thing.
I was hoping that eventually I would get more and more seeds that express this pheno, but that's not really what happened. I tend to get more drift.
Well, using that same pollen,
right.
yeah, you're going to get, you're basically using that same pollen and it's almost like a back cross is what you're doing to a degree. So I would suggest, like these are regulars and it's not feminized. So
not feminized, no.
Yeah. So I would select a new male and a new female, and each time through each generation, instead of putting that pollen that has all this diversity, because each year you're incorporating all that diversity back into the genetics,
putting the F1 right back as half of it every year. Yeah.
So, and not knowing, and it's like it's very much an experiment.
Yeah.
You don't really know.
This is pollen chucking. This is not breeding, man. I know.
But there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of people frown on it and they talk about it. Pollen chucking. There's nothing wrong. Everyone should be experimenting with pollen and making seeds. I don't think there's anything wrong with pollen checking like that at all. I think
this project is a pursuit of pure joy. This isn't a commercial thing. We're just doing it because we've never done it before. We never had the access to a space that we could do something like this.
Yeah. So my friend Gordon, what he does, he's in Grass Valley, and he takes seeds every year and homogenizes everything. So it's like the true open pollination, and he's getting new stuff to throw in there every year.
Sure.
And he's mixing all the seeds together, and he's got his own reasons for it. He'll be on the show one of these days to talk about it.
Sure.
Really cool, really,
he's giving Mother Nature a hand in
the most diversity possible, So, and everyone's got their own style and their own things. But I would be selecting. I would get rid of that pollen or save the pollen. But like, it's probably not going to be viable for that much longer. What are you freezing it or?
In a Vaxial bag in the fridge.
Yeah.
So probably stored in the high 40s, maybe 45 degrees, something like that.
Yeah. Still viable after 3 years?
I mean, we keep getting seeds and they keep popping.
You should just keep using the pollen every year to see how long that pollen lasts. That's what I would do. I think that's a good experiment.
I don't have an end game here yet. We've just been doing whatever comes naturally, Well,
and the feminized pollen doesn't last nearly as long for whatever reason.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, we're working on some pollen preservation techniques and using things.
So, question 2 I have for you in this free consultation I'm getting from you. I've had more than one pheno that I wished I had kept a clone of. What could I have done? Like once you're already in like a week 3 or 4 or 5 of flowering and you're starting to get a sense of what sorts are there, what can you do?
You're okay. You can re-veg the plant.
Well, I tried that and it never worked out for me.
And someone has to show you how to re-veg correctly. That's it. You re-vegging, so they say re-vegging, you lose potency and all these other things, but a lot of...
Changed the growth structure for me every time I did it. I get like these super larvae, spindly.
Well, so here's the thing. You have a plant and you pop seeds and you grow those seeds. Well, there's this thing called sexual maturity that happens over a couple generations. So that's why when you are doing your selection process, your pheno hunting, you should probably grow it out multiple times, right? Because it changes from that initial seed run through the first generation of clones, through the second generation and the third. And then they stabilize pretty good to where they express the same.
Sure.
And so that difference that you saw, that could have just been from the maturity of the plant, not that it was that different, and maybe grown it out, but either way, you would have probably got a different plant, something slightly different. And so that's why you want to grow them out multiple times. And it's a trip like that. And so when we're doing our selection process, we're doing the pheno hunting. We're going now from the first clonal generation rather than from seed, indoors especially. So, and it saves time for the long run, and you start getting a better picture of what that expression is actually going to be over time. And that's what's important.
Yeah.
So when I was much younger, we just used to grow it out once and that's the winner.
Yeah.
Or this is the winner, or that's the winner. Now it's like grow it out multiple times to really see what the best one is and how they change. And a lot of times you have one out of 20 or 100 and you're like, this is the one, this is the best. There's no way anything could be better than this. And then you grow it out again. You're like, no, this is different. This is the one. This is better than that one. Or the one you grew out that you thought was the best isn't quite as good. So you'll get stuff popping up that's good and stuff that's not as good, and they change. And it's all about taking detailed notes, and also smoking your product helps.
The cross that we have that I've been talking about, we call it Cusick's beard, named after Rick Cusick, big white beard dude.
Oh yeah.
And the mother was a Royal Highness female clone that I bought from Dark Heart Nursery on the legal market. And the father, I bought a 10-pack of Schlemons from Source Genetics from Chris Cassius, grew them all out, and intentionally let them pollinate. The males.
And how's it smoke?
It's delicious, man. I love it. It's
super citrusy.
It's hybrid. I mean, the Royal Highness is a GG cross. It's
Yeah.
Big, nothing special, but big resiny glands, you know, a good breeding genetics.
Well, you just mentioned GG. I think it gives us a great time to talk about the High Times Cup in LA. When they released the clones, they did a really smart thing that I'm not envious of it. Maybe a little bit. I think they did it right, and I think it's worth sharing with people to, uh, I really held genetics tight and close, and we didn't let genetics out. We didn't like letting our stuff out. We didn't like sharing it. We want to keep it in house because we didn't want it to blow up like how Blue Dream did.
Sure. Your most important IP,
yeah.
man.
Jesse Wales, rest in peace. He went to the Cup. Him and his crew went to the Cup that they won in LA, and they were giving out clones of Gorilla Glue, like literally giving it out. I think I got 5 or 6 clones. I don't remember how many, but I brought them to Sonoma. My buddy Josh and other people. We were all growing Gorilla Glue, and it was the sour diesel people, especially because it grew similar. It had an awesome gas profile, but instantly within a season, it had changed the game. Especially 90% of the guys growing sour quit growing sour.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was good, and like they shared it, and they wanted to get it out there. It was a really interesting business model that I think people should be aware of. And it's like sometimes sharing is the way to do it. Sometimes it's not about how long you hold it to your.
Do you think that strategy might have really saved them in the long run too? Did they get nailed by Gorilla Glue Company for copyright infringements and stuff?
They did, and then it had to be GG4. Right?
Yeah, but then it was everywhere. So whose was it even? You know, it's like I don't.
Yeah.
They spread the risk out of it.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother conversation about using names that are copyrighted that are owned by other people. Disney, be careful. I wouldn't use any
George
Disney.
Lucas will get you, man.
Dude, seriously, you go get some Star Wars names. I don't know, like there. And I think a lot of stuff when it was the black market, it was fine. But then moving into recreational, where you have businesses and a business address to send a cease and desist.
Yeah. You can still do it, but you got to contact George Lucas and get the paperwork, man.
Yeah, he's not going to get
He's not going to do it, but you could.
No, and I think a lot of guys wear that, in business, they wear it like a badge of honor where they got a cease and desist. And I think it's cool, but it can also be bad and slow you down. And especially if you have something super popular and then you want to call it whatever beer name, Disney name, something that's already taken, it could slow you down.
It could be expensive too.
Yeah, it could be expensive. I mean, I don't think like even like Skittles, those guys then they changed it to Z, but I think Wrigley, who's also in cannabis, they basically went after them, and then I don't think they had to pay anything. I just think that they had to change it to Z.
Yeah.
So you might get lucky, you might not.
Starbucks got some of that bong money, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Comedy.
It's a hard loss, man. When they get you, man, you don't want to be in a courtroom across from corporate lawyers.
No, and the thing is like. What I think a lot of people don't understand is lawsuits cost a lot of money. So even if you win, it costs time. And even if, losing, whatever, even if you're right, you can totally spend an arm and a leg, and it bankrupts companies.
Right.
So lots of fun. Lawsuits are no fun. And you know who wins in lawsuits?
Lawyers.
The lawyers.
I've worked for lawyers my whole life.
Every time lawyers win, they're the winners.
I should have been a lawyer. My mom was right.
Yeah.
Great job, man.
Dude, there's a need for stoner lawyers in the Bay Area for sure.
I still, even though I've lived here getting close to 10 years, I still feel like a New Yorker visiting.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't feel part of the community?
No, I love it. I am part of the community, but
yeah.
I'm still New York. I'm a New Yorker.
You still feel that you get the New Yorker vibe.
Yeah, I do, man. Like,
yeah, in New York, you don't even want to change. That's what makes you who you are, I think.
Especially now, like New York is, I don't know if you've been there recently. It's crazy right now. It's crazy. There's like 3 dispensaries unlicensed on every block. I got arrested in New York multiple times for smoking cannabis in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And now it's like you can literally smoke weed anywhere you can smoke a cigarette, which to me it's a beautiful rule. Another really nice rule they made is 12 plants per person. If you have 3 people living in the apartment, it's 36 plants.
That's amazing.
And like there's nothing that your landlord can do about it. It's like, oh man, it's going to be a home grow capital of the world.
It's amazing.
There's a company, I wish I could remember the name of the company because I would love to give a shout out to, Raekwon the chef from Wu-Tang Clan is an investor in a company that is trying to put grow boxes in people's houses in mass that basically do everything. So you pay this company to let you grow your plant count in your house for you. So
that's amazing.
It's like a service, like having maybe a home, like a maid or something like that.
So do you remember, speaking of Wu-Tang Clan, High Times Cup, I think it was 2012. It might have been 13. Wu-Tang was on stage, and they called Rico up,
Yeah, I do.
and he
Rest in peace, Rico. I do.
he'd been drinking, and he basically he replaced Old Dirty Bastard.
You should put the link in. It's on YouTube. That's that
dude,
thing we're talking
we should
about.
definitely put the link on the show. But it was an amazing performance. He threw up mid-performance and kept going,
Well,
and it was
Ghostface Killer was the headliner.
Yeah.
And he pulled 4 or 5 people from the audience
yeah,
to each do verses of the other Wu-Tang Clan members in the song. Rico was one of them.
Yeah.
And like he was possessed by Old Dirty Bastard for about 3 minutes.
it was
the verse,
amazing.
and then
It was-
the Old Dirty Bastard left him through the mouth. He puked on the stage.
he literally peeked on the stage.
But then later that night, man, like we went to the whiskey bar in Amsterdam. It's like kind of a popular late night spot.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know he was in there. The whole High Times crew was in there, and we were reminiscing about the night. Oh, that was so awesome. It was like one of the greatest High Times moments ever. And he kind of sheepishly came over to us, and he was like, dude, I'm so glad you said that, because he was embarrassed that he looked like an asshole in front of everybody.
Yeah, totally. He was an amazing guy, man. Rest in
Funniest
peace,
guy,
man.
one of the funniest guys I ever knew, man.
Totally.
Best
Best personality. He was
session
happy,
comedian.
yeah.
Like some comedians need a stage, and some comedians need a joint and a circle of dudes around them, you know? Like,
Right. Totally. He was definitely one of those. Yeah, it's sad all the people we're losing.
Phone homie, man.
What do you see happening with High Times? What's your opinion on High Times now? What do you see happening with High Times in the next 5 years? I mean,
Oh my God.
they have a great name still. I mean, they tried the dispensary model, and that didn't seem like it worked out so well, at least here in California.
Let me say this. I don't know anybody who works at High Times right now.
Yeah.
I have no connection to any of them. I don't. So I'm an observer again, like where I started when I was 15. Like I
Right.
buy them every now and again, whatever. Whoever did the design work on the storefronts for the High Times dispensaries nailed it. I think you did a great job. I don't know who you are, man, but you did a really good job. It looks
Totally.
like a cover of a magazine. I drive past it. I'm like, holy shit, that's a fucking.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think they just
love it.
closed in Oakland, right?
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Me either. I'm not really following along.
And I went in there once too, and it was kind of like going into a High Times museum. I had a really proud former High Times employee moment,
Nice.
even though I have mixed emotions about where High Times is in the world right now. I was
Yeah.
really proud of that when I went into those shops. Good job, man. Whoever did that.
Totally. Yeah, Michael Charoniak. I haven't heard his name in a while.
Ah.
He's got Sweet Leaf grinders.
That's right.
Sweet Leaf's the original. That
I
was
still have. That's the problem with that grinder. Unless you lose it, you never buy another one. Like I still have one I bought like 30 years ago.
Totally. Yeah, I like both. So there's 2 grinders I like. There's only 2 grinders I like, and it's Sweet Leaf is my classic. And then I like the Flour Mill. I think that's pretty cool.
Is that the one where the teeth kind of whirl around inside?
Yeah, and they
of it?
have different plates that you can use on their more expensive model, and so you can get different grinds. I kind of like that as a fun little feature. And
Interesting. I haven't tried that one yet.
yeah, they're super cool. But so are the Sweet Leaf. You know, what I mean, that's classic. Like that's the original grinder. Before that, we were using scissors or we were using our hands. I was breaking up stuff with my hands.
Yeah, I went through a scissors and a shot glass phase.
Totally.
That was where I graduated to. Like after I moved out of my parents'
whiskers,
house. Yeah.
The Fiskars scissors. Yeah, and you go as fast as you can with the spring, chopping it up. But you know, back then we were smoking like 0.75 gram joints too.
Yeah.
It would suck to do a whole eighth to get it
Seeded Nixie
perfect.
brick, man. Like that's where I
Oh,
was at then.
Where you're smoking the joint and the seed pops and shoots out. Like you can see him, if it's dark, you can see him shoot across the room. Yeah, good times. So if people are looking to get in touch with you, they're interested in consulting. You say you're not taking on really clients, but how can they find you on Instagram or social media?
I mean, I'm on Facebook and stuff, but honestly, I find my clients. I'm not.
So don't go looking for him because he's not there.
That's how you make. That's how you make demand. You make
become
unavailability.
exclusive, yeah.
I'm super unavailable, guys.
Yeah. That's the false
Craig Coffey
limited
on Facebook.
Yeah, false limited marketing. Yeah, that's
No,
totally.
honestly, man, like I'm a vibe worker. Like if I'm not into your project, it's not that I don't care about your project. If I'm not into it personally at some personal level, I just can't, I don't see how I fit in and I don't do it.
Totally. Really cool. No, and that's great way to be able to do that. I don't think everybody's as fortunate.
I've never worked in a project that I didn't personally feel invested in. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, man. I hope that I think Emerald Cup is doing a great job. Spanibus is doing good, and I think
Leaf is starting to do some cool stuff too, man. A
Yeah,
lot of former HT guys from my era are like
Oh, yeah.
reemerging in Leaf, doing some cups, and I don't think you can even call it a cup, but like
Yeah.
a leaf bowl, I think they call it.
And then there's Dougie. Big
Yeah,
shout out to Dougie.
love that
Hitman
dude.
Glass, Chalice Master. Like he threw the chalice. That was all
I was
those
always
events.
super impressed with. I never got to judge a chalice, but as a guy that ran competitions, I was super impressed with what he did, especially the presentation in his judges kits. That
Yeah, he kind of
nailed
set
it.
the
So
bar
cool,
for
man.
that.
I loved it, man.
Just yeah, it's hit it out of the park with that.
I thought that was pretty awesome.
He's got an eye for detail too,
Yeah.
like on a different level than I have an eye for detail. Like when it comes to genetics, I love my genetics and stuff, but with logos and stuff, Dougie's all over that. So he's always had that eye. So my business partner also that came up with the James Loud logo, he's got that same eye for
Swag master.
Oh, dude, and just to know what's gonna look good and very stylish.
Yep.
Not that I'm not that stylish. I'm a genetics guy. So, but yeah, lots of fun. Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
No, it's been great, man. You got me out of my cave.
Dude, it's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. We'll get you and the wife next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, bro.
Thank you very much.